a fun chat, and we like to host these artistic conversations and get to know all of you guys, and just talk about your art and give you a platform to really highlight your work. So thanks to everyone. I don't know if I missed a quick intro, but just if I did, I'm Kat. I work out of the LA showroom that Snehal was talking about, and I do the marketing for Zeiss Cinema. So we've been doing a lot of these live conversations on Zoom, in addition to supporting festivals and again, just supporting just filmmaking in general and cinematography, the art and craft. So nice to meet you all. Jenna, we were hoping that you can do, once we start recording, just do the quick introduction and just give a review of the festival. And then, we can just jump right into it with Snehal being the main interviewer and Stephen and I just, as we think of questions too, we'll just jump in.
Wonderful. Yes. Do you want me to intro now or do you want to?
Give us 1 second, Stephen, if you can come back on, introduce yourself, and then I'll have him record as well. And Kat, if you can record, Kat, if you can do, maybe you can record speaker view and I'll record gallery view.
Cool.
So Jenna, we're gonna give you like at least like 2 recordings so that if you need to edit or something.
Wonderful, yeah, we can do something nice. That would be perfect. Thank you so much.
Great.
So,
and do the panelists have any questions while we wait for Stephen to jump back on?
How far into the future are we going to be talking?
At least 1,000 years. So you better study up on technological developments. So Stephen, you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sorry about that. I'm just getting lighting for myself. I feel weird here.
Hi, Stephen.
I'm a director of Cinema Technical Sales Specialist. So I'm helping run the demo center in LA. If you have anyone who's coming in for a demo, needs to look at lenses, we can get them out. We can do a lot of loans. We do training from there. My background is technical support at Red for 8.5 years. So I'm pretty technically aware of most of the questions you'll have on the camera or the lens side. So I'm a good point of reference if you need any general questions answered.
And my name is Snehal Patel, for those of you guys who I haven't met. And I think I met Daniel, we met before, didn't we?
Yeah, maybe, yeah.
I feel like we have. Vova, I don't think we've met. Dave Miller, I don't think we've met before. But my name is Snehal Patel. I'm the sales director for Zeiss Cinema in the Americas. So our team, with Stephen and Kat, we handle North and South America. So we coordinate. We have a representative in Latin America. We also have a distribution company in Canada, but essentially we oversee how, we do our marketing campaigns, what we sell, what kind of activities we do for the Americas. So we have a lot of responsibility, but as you all know, we've been really virtual. And this time has been great for us because we get to know a lot of you and your work. So we had a nice research put together. We dove into what you guys do, research your backgrounds a little bit, and hopefully have some interesting things to talk about today. But we're going to surprise you. We're not going to prep you ahead of time. So you're going to have to come up with answers. And then we'll test you at the end. And if you lose, you get ejected out of the festival. You're out.
That's a test.
No pressure.
Yeah, so just, it'll totally be fun. But Jenna, we're so happy and proud to be a sponsor. And thank you so much for this opportunity. It's always wonderful to be able to chat with people. So
thank you so much, Snehal, Katia, Stephen, and the whole Zeiss group. I'm Jenna Suru, the executive director of the Paris International Film Festival, and we are just thrilled to discuss the future of cinematography with such an incredible partner who is definitely the biggest in camera and lenses, and not only in the film industry, right, Snehal, as we discussed, but also in the medical industry, which is extremely important. And our filmmakers really, and here we have the cinematographers behind 3 amazing films in our official selection. Anna with Vova, Anna premiered at Cannes. We are, I believe, their 350th selection. So glad we made the cut. It's a brilliant short, very female-led story and a very important message. Daniel is the cinematographer behind Cream. such an incredible feature. It's so colorful. I just can't wait to hear him talk also about his work on this film. And Dave, who is also the cinematographer behind The Cunning Man, really impressive short. And thank you so much again, Zeiss, for co-moderating this with us. We are just thrilled to have you.
Thank you, Jenna. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to have this conversation with these wonderful cinematographers. They're all very talented. And as you mentioned, they all have wonderful projects as part of the Paris International Film Festival. So it's going to be wonderful for those people that can now screen the films and then come here and talk about them. So this is a great platform. I'm joined here by my colleagues, Katia del Rosario and Stephen Balsley, and they're from the Zeiss team. And they're going to jump in as well and maybe have some questions. We're going to be talking about the future of cinematography. So what is the future of cinematography? What's going to happen? But let's talk about what we have right now. Let's get a brief on who these gentlemen are and their projects that they have in the film festival. So Daniel, I'd like to start with you first with Cream. What a cool short film. I, of course, watched the trailer. Or sorry, it's a feature film. I watched the feature film. I watched the trailer and it was quite exciting. I'm kind of reminded of some, you know, rom-com type of films, but with like a dramatic edge to it and some real world problems. So can you tell us about your involvement in the project?
Yeah, we made the movie. The director was Nora Lakosh, and this was our her first feature, and our we made several other films before together, like shorts before. It's a romantic comedy, but we would like to put it in a not in a typical romantic comedy way. We would had the idea to make it like to give it a little author way, and we had like a lot of references from French Nouvelle Vague, from the 2000 French movies, some mix of movies like the movies of Wong Kar-wai. We were wanting to do something which is not it's a colorful movie, a very a movie which is very strongly uses colors, and we were working a lot on that. Do you want me to tell like basic things about the story, or let's start something?
Oh yeah, you could. We would like to hear anything you'd like to tell us, but in particular, also, you know, what technology did you use? It's got a very filmic look to it. So
we used an RE Alexa Mini, and we used the retro lens Canon K35, which is a lens from the 70s. And the aim, we chose that lens for this special film because basically we were planning to shoot the movie on 16mm, but budget-wise we couldn't, and we were looking for the best solution to give the same look as on digital as it would be seen on 16mm. So we made a test 16mm with the Zeiss standard lens, and we were looking setups that is so soft and so pastelish, if you have this word. And finally, we found out this lens with the Black Promised 1/4, which is a quite soft setup, and we used it wide open most of the time. So we wanted to have this. So like our main goal was that like romantic comedies, especially in Hungary, but all around the world, have a special aesthetics, which we were trying to find out something different. And like this film takes place in a little bit not 100% realistic world. It's a little bit like pushed away from reality, but it's not a fairy tale. So we were searching for something what could be the best storytelling tools and art world that would describe this world. And the story is, the main character has a pastry, and she's a very enthusiastic in her profession. And in the beginning of the story, we get to know her life, which starts with a love disappointment. Sorry for my English if it's
Oh, we understand you
interrupted.
perfectly, Daniel. You're doing great. Yeah, thank
So
you.
it's she's with a she's her story starts with a huge disappointment, and after in the 15 minutes of the film, she has a problem that she could lose her pastry store. And this mood, this bluish mood, which is her life in that time, and the pastry shop gave our basic setup. And that's how the colors and all the thing which is around the movie and in the main goal of the cinematography were found out. I can tell. I don't know how long you want me to tell, and I don't know which parts, because I can talk about.
Well, let's talk about the production design. I mean, you know, what amazing choices. You chose lenses that were on purpose going to give you soft edges. You know, on purpose, they're going to kind of flare out a little bit because it's going to be more reminiscent of vintage. But it has to go along with everything else, right? So the costumes, the settings, like you were talking about.
Yeah. So like our main goal was not to use anything which is sterile, like not to use backgrounds, not to use locations, not to use makeup, not to use any details which are that, because that's a very typical way of thinking in these kind of movies. And this movie takes place in the present, but we would like to give a little lift from the present, but not to make it dreamy world or something like that. We would trying to find the edge where it's not over, that you can not over and becomes to work as a fairy tale. The edge where it still has this stylish thing, but it still becomes real, and you can be inside and you can describe it and feel it as a reality. So
very nice.
Custom wise and location wise, that was our main goal. And like location wise, Budapest, the city where I live and where we shot the movie, is the capital of Hungary, and it has a very strong architecture from the 20s, 30s, and the Austro-Hungarian monarchy. And we were looking to find these locations which has this very strong charm, and it's not a huge part of Budapest, but a very typical part. And we were trying to use these and the very special colors which this has to mix with our world, which we were trying to find out. So we were trying to find locations in Budapest, which is the first third of the story to be like this, and the two-thirds of the story that takes place in a castle which was built in 1900.
Yes.
And it's an old small noble castle with its charming garden and very special aesthetics, which we were looking for like 2 months, a very long time, and at the very end we could just find it, and we chose this place. And the reason we chose this, that we had the locations, all locations in Budapest, which is this 20s, 30s Austro-Monarchian charm, and we didn't find anything which really matches it, and that was the place finally. And the reason we chose this, also the same thing, that it didn't have a corner or a little bit of detail where you couldn't feel something, textures and stuff, and that's why we wanted to choose the film, the 60mm film, to have the same grainy, smooth, soft edges stuff, And we were also looking for the same in dresses and the same in set design.
Set design, yeah.
Yeah,
That's really nice, Daniel. And then, you know, when you guys are debuted this film and you saw everything, you know, I'm sure it really wowed everybody. I just want to cut to and just show people, since we're talking about the future of cinematography, and I think it's really important for everyone to see this, is your website, because your website actually, for all three of you cinematographers we're talking to today, are quite impressive. So I just want to make sure that the viewers can see that how you're communicating the kind of work you do. You have a long career that you've had making short films and also feature films, and they're really beautiful. And what's really nice is that you can go and visit Daniel and see his work. So you can watch the trailer of what we just did, but we could take a look at some of the screenshots that we're talking about, and really speaks to the kind of artistry, the framing and everything that he's working on, and that he's mentioning the kind of textures he's trying to get. It's proven because you can see it. So I want to talk now to Dave Miller. How you doing, Dave?
Very well, thanks. Yeah. I just want to say that some of that work, Daniel, looks amazing. Really, really. The clips that I just saw there look fantastic.
thank you.
So it's wonderful that we get to have this forum that you get to see each other's work too, right? So getting three artists together in a room is always a beautiful thing. So let's talk about the Cunning Man, Dave. This is a really interesting looking dramatic short, and what a texture and look to it. It's very beautiful. Can you tell us about this project and how you got involved?
Yeah, I got involved with a director that I think I'd worked with about 18 years previously, and we'd sort of stayed in touch, but we hadn't worked with each other for a very long time. A director called Zoe Dobson, and it was fantastic to sort of get a call out of the blue from her, and she was saying, "Look, I'm going to do my first my first short film. I'd love you to come and work on it." And I hadn't really done a short film for many years. I did a lot of short films at the beginning of my career, but I hadn't done one for a while. And I've sort of, been very much in doing commercials, and I do a lot of food work, and it was something I really wanted to do. And I remember just before we shot it, I got a big job that I had to turn down, and I was sort of thinking, oh God, I've said I'll go and do this short film, and pre-production is often very stressful with things, and I was thinking, oh, whatever. And it turns out it was the best thing that I did that year. It was fantastic to do it, and I was so pleased that I made the decision to do it, because not only was it a lot of fun to do, it just got me back into really enjoying shooting a bit of drama and getting that script. I mean, I do shoot drama, but not as much as I'd like to. So I was really really enjoying the short film format. It was sponsored by Arri, so we were given an LF camera by Arri to shoot with, which was very kind. Milan down at Arri in UK lent us a camera. They lent us some signature primes, and it was the first time I'd shot with signatures. And we had a very it was quite a challenging project. It was all set on a farm in Wales. We didn't have long to shoot. We only had 2 days. There was quite a lot to get through. Daylight hours, we did weather, daylight hours, all that sort of thing. So we ended up having, we shot the LF with the signatures, and we also had a Alexa Mini with the Arri Trinity, which we used for Steadicam, which was great. So we were able to kind of swap between the two cameras, speeded things up. John Cassell was my Steadicam op, and he did a fantastic job on the Trinity. Yeah, it was a really fun project. It was one of those ones where everyone really pulls together, and people are doing it for free, and we're just really pleased with the results. And it seems to have really picked up interest in festivals and things. So.
And was this the first time you had shot full frame or a larger format in a while?
It was the first time I'd shot large format. This was, I think we shot it in 2019 actually. So it was, it was part of Ari's kind of push for, you know, the LF. I think it was before the mini LF had come out. The LF had been out a while. I think I actually shot a job on the LF about a month before shooting this. A food commercial I shot on the LF about a month before, so I had one experience with it. And the immediate thing I just found with it was, I mean, there were two things. First, it was just I own an Alexa Mini, so I've got my own Mini that I use on a sort of day-to-day basis. So I'm very used to that look, and immediately it was just the color matrix of the LF just immediately just stood out to me, and I've shot on the mini LF since, and then the other thing is obviously the large format sensor, which just allows you to be a bit more immediate with your characters, so you can kind of what maybe you would possibly be on a 35mm lens on a standard mini camera, and it might feel a little bit, you're in close with your character and handheld or something, and it just feels maybe a little bit too wide, a little bit distorted. It's not as shallow as you might want it. Whereas when you're on the LF, you get the same frame, but you're on a 50mm, and all of a sudden you don't have the distortion, and you have a shallower fall off, and it just immediately you just want to get that camera close to the character, and you want to be in there with them, which helps a lot when you're shooting on locations and small locations. And we had one shot in a caravan. We were in a small pub in this location, so it's immediately when you move from the Super 35 sensor to a large format sensor, it just inspires you. You know, when you're shooting, you pick it up and you go, just, you know, again, you're like, wow, let's get stuck in, and it's great, you know.
What's interesting is, like, you went the opposite way of Daniel, who was looking for grain and texture, and you look at this frame and you're like, wow, there is no grain whatsoever. So it's completely different, which is what the variety of the same technology can give you, which is so interesting. You know, both ARRI cameras, but used completely differently with the choice of lens and processing. So, you know, what kind of look were you going for, Dave?
Well, I mean, that's very true. I mean, this look was much more bleak. You know, it's a kind of it's not quite a horror film. It's about magic. It's you know, so it's kind of overcast countryside. It's a hard life on a farm. We're talking about dead animals. It's, you know, it's there was a lot of realism we wanted in it as well. We wanted to Afram, the main character, we wanted to really come across we wanted to create that realism, filming on a real farm, because there's this heightened magicalness in the story. It's good to ingrain it in a bit of realism so that sort of truth comes through. So I think, you know, I think maybe the sharpness of the signatures helped that, you know, the lack of grain. I mean, I shot with a LUT within the camera, which worked really well on the LF. I was able to kind of to use that, you know, when you're shooting in a sort of rainy, overcast English countryside, you know, sometimes you can struggle to get a look because it can just look so grey and nothing. But I think you know, with that LUT, that really helped me shoot it during, you know, on set, know how I wanted to shoot it and light it, and then I followed that through in the grade. Really achieved that in the grade. So yeah, it was yeah,
it's a fantastic achievement. It looks nice.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting to see the you know, very contrasting films, as you say.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to mention, Mr. Miller's got an excellent website. So once again, for you viewers out there that want to learn about the future of cinematography, well, you got to be able to showcase what you do. And I'm just going to point out, you know, he mentioned commercial stuff. Of course, this is exactly where I went when I went to his website, because, you know, I love the food and cooking and stuff like that. So I'm like, oh, what, he did something with Jamie Oliver? No way. And, you know, look at this. I mean, this is what you want to do when you want to showcase your work. You want to make sure that people get a clear example of frames and shots that really speak to what you're trying to do, because it's a combination of lighting, of lensing, and of everything else, you know, post and all that. And making these decisions really helps to communicate like what kind of work that you like to do and want to do. All right, moving on to, for the last introduction is Vova Ivanov. Am I saying that right, Vova?
Yeah, exactly. Almost like Volvo, you know. I'm
Like
being called
Volvo,
that
but
all the time. So now I got used to it already. So yeah, hi everybody. Really happy to be here with you today.
Hey.
Yes, and well, very cool pictures, guys. Well, Daniel and Dave, both of you, very cool and inspiring job that you do. Enjoyed it quite a lot.
so
yeah.
Vova, you have a fun short in this festival, right? With Anna, and Anna is about a woman who she lives in Ukraine. Is that correct? And and there's a group of American guys that are coming in to Ukraine to like find women, and she's gonna attend one of these parties, and she's signed up for it. But she doesn't seem like your typical person that would sign up for this, which is so beautiful and wonderful. But what a great story! How did you get involved in this project?
Yeah, well, about that, the main character is not kind of typical lady that would go to that sort of place as well. You would be surprised, I need to tell you. Yeah, but anyway, it was my first work with the Dekel Berenson. So I guess that he basically found me because of another short film, Cross Country, that got the Palme d'Or in 2011. Yeah, so first I got his script of Anna, and I was really surprised because on one hand it was really kind of simple and minimalistic, but on the other hand it was full of extremely precise details about, well, life in Ukraine nowadays, which is, well, really surprising, you know, from a person who is kind of not from around here. And then I saw his previous short film called The Shmina, also a great film, won a lot of awards. He shot it in Nepal. And then, you know, it looked completely different to what I would expect, you know, from that sort of very kind of particular and very realistic story. And well, yes, then as we started talking about the film, how we want to do it, so basically we ended up somehow developing this visual style that he already had in his previous film, which I just find really suitable for the story. And well, what we ended up having in the end is something really kind of modest, really minimalistic from the perspective of visuals. So basically, it's almost all the time one shot for one scene. It's not kind of much edit there. And it's also usually like two shot with quite a static camera, no complicated movements, no complicated choreography, well, basically nothing. But still, in all those shots, like every single small detail that is there was very thoughtfully chosen and thoughtfully worked out. And well, in a way, I guess, well, we were looking through a lot of, you know, kind of references and a lot of films as we were deciding how we're gonna do that, because that is usually something very difficult if you want to get simple but still kind of deliver the story, deliver the emotional impact. And well, I guess what we ended up having is something in many ways resembling Russian paintings of the ending of 19th, 18th century. There was such a school called Передвижники. So basically those were the guys who were all brilliant painters, but they just went to country to see the life of ordinary people, of peasants. And that was something, well, by the time, what you might call, you know, like super realistic painting. So that is basically what we ended up having. And it was also interesting story how we chose the lenses. There is a
Looks like anamorphic lenses.
Yes, exactly. Those are Cooks. Those are Cooks anamorphics. So there is a huge rental in Kiev. Yeah, so I just need to tell you that we shot the whole stuff in Ukraine, and that was the kind of initial idea, and that is how Dekel makes his stories. So he's a professional many years experienced traveler. So he's been to, well, I guess most of the parts of the world, including South Pole and North Pole. And that is how he kind of works. So first, before developing some story, he goes to some place, and he visited Ukraine before some years ago, and he actually visited one of those meetings that is portrayed in the film, where kind of foreign guys come to Ukraine to look for wives. So all this part is actually, well, that it looks more or less exactly as it is. Yes, and then while we were looking for locations all around Kiev, just for the sake of logistics, but then we ended up shooting most of it in Kryvyi. That's in the industrial, like Soviet time city in the west of Ukraine. Quite a lot of things being shot there. Yes, and well, there is a huge rental house in Kiev called Patriot Rental. I guess they are also the official Zeiss representatives in Ukraine. Yeah, I'm pretty much sure they are. Yeah, so they were very friendly, and they provided us with a lot of stuff. So we were running a couple of days testing really a lot of very different lenses, and surprisingly, well, it seemed to us that anamorphic insert well created, you know, that's just very interesting thing, you know. If you start talking about lenses, choosing the especially those significant strategical stuff, like doing something spherical or anamorphical, well, for me, like if you put it down to basics, anamorphics kind of create some sort of barrier between you and reality. So it doesn't really tend to represent things as they really are, and it kind of adds this, okay, I'm watching movie stuff.
Yes.
And I was really surprised that Dekil kind of felt, because I didn't want to push him to anything. I just told him, okay, look, I just we got like 10 sets of very different lenses. I just want to run tests for you.
Right.
And then we went to color grading suit, and just to see how he will react to seeing kind of just different sort of this optical representation of his
and he
character.
just naturally went for that look, which
Yes,
it would make
reason.
sense. It makes sense because, you know what, you said that a lot of those shots are framed with like the ability to have two people in the frame at the same time, but it's always towards the center of the frame, and you can see the smearing at the edges, and it's very beautiful. I think that it really helps that kind of format that you chose, the kind of framing you wanted to do.
Perhaps, but for me, it all goes out of some paradox, you know. So the story it has nothing to do with some fantasy or nothing. It's really absolutely realistic, and his approach to everything, to casting, to locations, to wardrobe,
Production design,
well, basically to
everything, yeah.
everything. I need to tell you that this film got even to a one documentary film festival for some reason. Now it's not a documentary, and every single shot in this is very built up from just every single thing that gets into the shot. It's just not. It is there for a reason, and that is when, you know, when you go, well, telling that sort of story, you go for a look that actually doesn't represent reality that much, especially if you go cook anamorphics. Well, you know what I'm talking about. Those lenses are very specific, so you really kind of have this a lot of smearing, distortion, and yeah, the sides of the shot, they're really blurred out. And yeah, we were using quite a lot of filter combination to it. I guess it was most of the time Hollywood black magic together with black promise or promise, well, in the different densities for different shots. So and then also we played.
Sorry, did you mix the diffusion filters? So you used different diffusion filters at the same time?
Yes, for certain scenes, yes. So it was usually like, you know, 1/8 Hollywood black magic and something like plus 1/8 or maybe 1/4 black promise. Sometimes, you know, we wanted to have this more kind of light from the windows in the background, so that it looks a bit frosty, the whole image. And also the story takes place in the winter, And there are some exterior shots where we really see it snowed and it was really fucking cold that we were shooting it. So yeah, we use this diffusion also in terms of delivering this frosty feeling to the overall image, you know, somehow make it feel colder in a way. Well, I don't know. It's not like I was thinking that way when I was doing it. So we just ran tests and we just thought, okay, that particular image just looked nice. What was that? Aha, those were two filters. Okay, let's go for it. Yeah,
Right.
so just, you know, it's right now just to sound kind of smart, you know, I'm making up some kind of explains why did we do that. But no, I mean that, well, generally that what is surprising about this particular work, you know, so that it's kind of story and the way it is written absolutely doesn't correspond to the way it is shot. And Deckel, he will never say that, but he is actually one of those directors who are very keen on visuals.
Mhm.
Now he would always say, no, I want to look at as realistic as possible. No, that's not true. That he always starts talking it, but then as soon as we get into the interior, that is an actual flat, it's not a set. And then he thinks, okay, this wall looks kind of, you know, a bit too kind of dark. Let's maybe put a bit of texture here and a bit of texture there. And, you know, the glass, it looks too clean. Let's just make it look a bit more. So, you know, I understand what I mean. Yes, and in this way, it was very kind of very nice experience because, well, I have luck working with a lot of very different directors, a lot of debutant directors, and it's always some different approach. You know, you need to build up together. Yeah, so
Yeah, we're
well, if
looking
you would
at
ask me just to put it like short, then okay, Anna is a film of the visuals of Anna is actually a paradox because it doesn't really correspond the stylistics of a story, and that is how I guess, you know, this, well, complicated emotion is created when you meet, you know, some things that really do collide with each other. Well,
absolutely.
surprisingly, and it's not something I guess that you can, you know, calculate from the very beginning. It just for some reason happens or it doesn't. So
Yeah, and your process was really interesting, how you got to that look too, and convincing the director. I just want to showcase here really quickly, Vova, your website, which is fantastic. You have a really nice reel at the top that plays by itself. So this is something else for people to look at if they're trying to learn how to do their websites. Another idea where you could scroll down, of course, and see all the different work. And it's really clear to see that Vova is doing a lot of narrative and commercial work. So both fiction and stuff for promotion. So you can take a look at his work over there. So I'm going to give my colleagues, do you guys have a chance or do you want a chance to ask a question, or should we move on to the quiz round where we start putting points on stuff?
No, we'll push the quiz so we don't put pressure on the guy. I wanted to ask, because all of your films have such specific looks, Daniel, with your very, you know, pastel color palette, Vova, the kind of dreary look that you were just talking about. How involved were you in the post process, and do you find that it's important to collaborate with the colorist in order to maintain the integrity of the look of your film?
Sorry, I just missed it. That was a question on me specifically, or
No,
just
just all three of you guys, just generally, or for these specific films, how involved were you in the post process, in the color grade, and how important is it for you to collaborate with the colorist in order to maintain the integrity throughout every part of the process?
Okay,
Start.
who should start?
I did go to the grade. We were lucky enough to have a grade on the Cunning Man. I can't remember where we did it now. And I think it's really, really important. I think it's very easy in this day and age for everything to get lost and come out totally different from how you wanted it or how you shot it. It's more often than not that's the case. Even if you have got a strong involvement, it's one of the things that I wrestle with. It's really hard to, you know, I shot it with a look, and then I went into a grade and I almost tried to get it back to that, and almost felt like I hadn't. I was pleased with what we came up with, but I still look at some of my reference shots or my shots, my screen grabs that I've got, and go, it's still not quite how I wanted it. And that's I think there's so much technology now involved, and so many different places you see it, and places it gets viewed, and you do a grade for this and a grade for that, and when you get in, it's like a can of worms when you get into it. So, you know, short answer is yes, you've got to be there, you've got to see it through as much as possible, and really try and get in the room.
In our specific film, we were like in one part we were working a lot with cooperation with the art director and the director. We were working like a week in finding materials, photos, paintings, and trying to describe the colors and how many colors we want to use and which specific colors. And we made a rule, like kind of a dogma, if you have this word, that we want to use this amount of colors and which place what, and this after this we did this. I made tests with different gels, like color gels, because we made a whole day of testing different gels which we use at exterior nights and interiors and stuff like that. And after this, we made a pre-color collection. So we made a test which was seriously worked as in the color grading room. And so previously we had a look, and this look was like already ready when we started the post-production. So because of the strong color concept, it was important in this case, very important. But most of the time, all of the time, it's very important, of course. And I love this part of finishing movies, which I hate most of the time is getting stuck with little VFX details, which all the time happens, and this ping pong between you and the company, it just can be very tiring. But this part is yeah.
Great. And Vova, how about you?
Cool. I just want to say that, yeah, what Daniel says is also just very important not to forget that image that you're getting is actually the result of collaboration of a lot of people, a lot of talents put in it together. So just every texture matters, the texture of the skin matters. So a lot when you see something that looks aesthetically appealing, you always need to know that there is always, it's not like just the camera guy who came, who just turned on the light, pushed the button, then did some magic in color grading and voila. No, it's not like this. It's always the very thoughtful work, very in-depth preparation and tight collaboration of all the departments. In case of Anna, actually, I hunted for a specific colorist for this film.
Oh, wow.
The guy whom I know, I did a couple of works before that with him together. So we did, we didn't actually do any LUTs, but we did some lens and makeup tests with him together. That is when actually we decided to go for this Cook anamorphic stuff. And after that, we were spending a lot of time, three of us. This guy, he's called Dima Vasilenko, probably will tell you nothing, but he's quite young, but a very well-known colorist in Kiev. And yeah, we actually had to do some tricks, you know, to get exactly him for this project. And then we were spending quite a lot of time. I guess it was really long for such a short film. I guess it was like 5 or 6 days maybe that we spent, the three of us in the suite. So yes, then there was another day that we just spent it. So we did first the P3 version that we actually graded on a barcode projector. And so that is where, you know, we played around with the grain a lot. So we did a couple of tests. We viewed the same stuff on the projector. Then we went to 4K video suite just to see how it kind of looks in P3. And then we spent another day converting this whole stuff to Rec 709 version. And then we figured out that, okay, in Rec 709, the grain doesn't work kind of the way it does. So we, well, changed a lot of things there. Yes, and the bottom line is that this specific guy, this Dima Vasilenko, I just knew that that sort of aesthetics and that sort of job is exactly for him, for his kind of feeling of image, for his feeling of texture. And also something that I just want to, that just came in my mind as I was listening to Dave and Daniel, that just look how the cinematography actually changed during, well, I'm not that old guy, but still I'm kind of shooting for 15 years already. And in this really short span, we already had a couple of revolutions in the visuals. Well, primarily, you were really limited on what could you do with the look in kind of lab or in post-production that was, well, basically non-existent in the film era. So you had to work with the filters, with the different type of development, choosing different type of stock, choosing different pairs of positive and negative film to get the specific texture. And then we got, what was that? I guess, Brother, I don't know, the first film that went through DI completely. I might be mistaken. But still, that changed everything. So then you really got a lot of tools to do pretty much everything with your image afterwards. And that is where a lot of people, especially those, well, great cinematographers out of the film age, that they actually got lost in it for a moment. And that's the situation that we're having right now. So back then you had a lab guy. If he was good, then you could kind of see, okay, you want to have a bit more contrast image, then probably you would go for a pull process. So you would just overexpose your negative to have it tighter to get some more contrast to look, or other way, if you wanted to have a bit of milky blurry shadows, so you would rather go to push process and go to have a thin negative. And also you could do some portional bleach bypass. So there were kind of tricks, but it was always kind of...
You could do all this alchemy, right? It was like you really had to know the process and what was going to happen.
Yes, and actually it was never that exact. So it was always kind of, okay, that's how we feel, you know? Even the greatest Kodak laboratories, as soon as you were starting getting away from the kind of standard processes, that's actually where all the great image usually was. That is where you were actually kind of playing the guess game. So now you don't need to play the guess game, but still there is just such a lot of things you can change and such a lot of tools there that you definitely need to have somebody who, first of all, knows the technology, and in the same time who is as keen on visual aesthetics as you are. Somebody with whom you can communicate directly. And that is why it's really important to know your colorist, or to be a colorist yourself. I know quite a lot of camera guys who are in the same time great colorists, and they're doing most of the color grading themselves. That's also a way nowadays. But generally speaking, yes, that is an absolutely new profession that emerged just in the last decade, probably, and it became so significant.
Yeah, we also have like a digital imaging technician, and you know, a change to how first and second ACs work as well because of digital technology.
Exactly.
Now for the other guys, you know, you've used, all three of you used digital technology and came up with vastly different looks. And to Vova's point, there's so many different variables in terms of tools and things that you can, people that you can use to kind of get to your image. What's the next step? What do you see that's next for camera lens cinematography? What are you looking forward to? What developments? Daniel, Dave, if you guys want to go, one of you.
You mean what's the next step for progression?
Yeah. What do you see?
yeah, it's a difficult question because technically wise, it's always gonna progress and stuff. I like 65 millimeter and LF and stuff like that really heighten the level, and also lower budget cameras like there's a new camera, that FX9 of the Sony, which is a documentary camera, which really also in this mid-range cameras heightened this format. But as I see that the history of cinema is like more than 100 years old, and trends are very typically coming up and then going away. And this now the recent years are the years of the big format, and the 10 or 15 years ago was the days of the 5D, which was very you know, some feature films were shot on, some great ones too. And I feel like after Alexa appeared, you can approve and stuff, but it arrived, and it's like something we have gotten. I don't feel that that I think that's the milestone, and I don't feel like big huge differences can happen. But of course they're gonna be, but you can have so many different ways of looks that's incredible, and that's the best thing about it. And this large format trend is a thing which is very cool and very sexy and very good for a lot of things, but I don't feel that it's good for all projects. And that's the thing I don't like about trends, that you start to get using something which is maybe not the best for your movie sometimes.
Yeah, that's a good point. Dave, what do you think?
I mean, I think there's a lot of things on the horizon technically out there that are going to come and possibly disrupt the industry, or you know, and when I say that, I don't necessarily mean that in a bad way. And I think it's basically it's all about storytelling and whatever's best for the story. And there's technologies that are coming that might allow us to tell stories that we couldn't tell otherwise if that technology was there, whether that be, you know, virtual production, LED screens that we're seeing a lot of, LED screens for backgrounds that we're seeing a lot coming out now. The kind of integration with computational effects, Unreal Engine, CGI, you know, allowing us to do things that maybe we don't have the budgets for otherwise, you know, in a studio environment. I think that's all very exciting. And if it's a way of letting us, you know, tell a story we want to tell, then that's brilliant. And I think what always happens when all new technologies come on board is a lot of productions, a lot of films use them, and then there then becomes an appetite for things to look how they used to look, and so we're constantly sort of going forward and going back. So we're going forward with the new technologies and the new lenses and everything, and then we're at the same time everyone wants to shoot with the older glass, which is coming back. So it's a constant back and forth, and you know, we're lucky enough to be in an industry where from one project to the next we've got a massive menu of things to choose from, and it's fantastic and it's exciting, and you know you go, right, I've got this story, how are we going to tell it? So there's so much in the future that's going to happen. But I think in terms of cinematography will always be there, because we're you know, it's such a as you mentioned, it's such a collaborative process that no matter what technology is there, no one's going to make a film on their own. And you know,
you're going to need all these experts to come together to help out to make it happen.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. So here's the quiz part of it. Now, Stephen, do you have a question before I ask the quiz question?
A little bit. Just because we're talking about the future. I mean, we're
please jump
right now. My question was, is there, I mean, we've had changes to the cameras, to the lenses, to the lighting, to the, you know, way you communicate with your partners, to the way you submit films in general. I didn't know if there was one specific piece of technology or a product or something that has really changed your guys' approach to how you film in the last few years.
Good question.
I mean, maybe it was a few years ago, but in my career, you know, the advent of the larger sensor was the biggest revolution in sort of 2009, 2010. Before that, I was shooting, you know, it opened up that sort of the cinema, so cinematography to so many people. I had shot on film a couple of times, but I shot on a lot of video with the Pro 35 adapter. I bought a set of lovely Zeiss Super Speeds Mark IIs when I was in about 2005. I was lucky enough to have a set of those, and I used them with the Pro 35, you know, for a good couple of years, trying to make everything look like film, sometimes successfully and sometimes not successfully. But when the Red came along, and I did get a Red camera early on, and it did change things. It changed things massively. And then obviously the Alexa came along after that, and here we are in the large format. So I think, I mean, for me, that's the biggest change that in my career that's happened. And it was sort of great to be there for that change. And you know, everyone embraced it, and you can and you can just see there's so much more available now because of that change than there was, you know, in the early 2000s kind of thing.
Yeah. What about you, Vova?
Well, I guess I would agree with Dave, because what really changed everything is the appearance of big sensors starting from Canon D5. I guess that was really a revolution comparable to, I don't know, like the appearance of color film, even maybe, or appearance of 16 millimeter, because it actually gave you the camera that costed like a couple of $1,000 that could deliver a look of something that would cost like thousands and thousands of dollars before. And I guess that really revolutionized the way we work. And the second great thing would probably be LEDs lighting, because that's, I think, how I was lighting my sets like 5 years ago and 10 years ago. Those were completely different technologies, completely different approach. Yeah, so I would
That's so
probably
true.
say the two things. So the large chips and yeah, and LED lighting.
Daniel, what about you?
I absolutely understand. I absolutely agree with the guys who what they previously said. Uh, I think that this thing, yeah, it's availability of widespread to a lot of people is a huge change, and of course a game changer. And but although it's a good thing, because anyone who wanted, like, or wider part of people who wanted could start filming, but the big effort happens in head and not in technique. I think the same, but of course it's a great thing, and it changed a lot and let a lot of people to achieve. I think for me, so I agree with the guys, and I wanted to say the same, but what I think in addition is like iPhone photography and iPhone cinematography is, I think, is gonna be a big, in a few upcoming years, is gonna be a huge change, like, which is a game changer in a way that you can make, and this autofocus thing, which is proving every time. And I think in a few years it's going to be so advanced that you can shoot really cinematic shots with your DJI small stuff, which is amazing how light sensitive and frame wise getting bigger and bigger. And I think that's a huge change, and can be a huge change in making low budget stuff, documentaries and music videos. And I would say there's a movie I I love from the US called Tangerine, which takes place in Los Angeles.
I love
It's the
Tangerine.
first, it's the first iPhone style movie, and I think that's a huge revolution. And in the way how you photograph, where I do street photography, and the way it revolutionized that too, because there was a huge times between the 70s until the iPhones appeared, where a camera was something different because people were afraid of. I mean, you know what I'm talking about, that people started to get afraid and too many cameras, and this thing changed a lot. And I think when phones gonna be amazingly good, like a 5D or something, it's gonna happen soon. It's gonna be a huge change in street photography and this kind of street documentary thing, which I think a big change, gonna be a big change, because having a phone is not having a camera.
Say, just before we proceed, there is just another little something that I would add. That well, actually, what Daniel just said made me think of. Well, there is another one thing that evolutionizes and progresses as fast as medium, as fast as technologies, and that probably determines the way we work the most. And I would say that that is actually the viewer and the evolution of viewers' perception. I mean, just, well, for a second, back in the days, like in 90s, you know, while I was living in Soviet Union and we start getting first VHS players, yes? Back then, you didn't actually have any alternative to getting, well, what you might call a cinematographic experience, you know, when you could come to the movie, see something on a big screen with the great sound and everything, or as an alternative, you could just have a television on VHS, which never delivered it. And now, I mean, talking about the iPhone, look at this screen that everybody now has in his pocket. And of course, it's small, it's not 5:1 sound, but still, in terms of seeing image, it's marvelous. It's those, how are they called, retina technology screens. They really deliver a very beautiful, very deep image. Then again, think about that. Well, nowadays, I guess, like, average person in his life spends, like, we'll say 8 hours sleeping, then maybe 8 hours earning money, and another 8 hours probably consuming or producing visual images. So, I mean, nowadays, our viewer is completely different. Another one, a good example. Well, in Soviet Union, you remember this old, very cool Fantomas French film with Louis de Funès, this comedy. So it was one of the few films that were actually got from abroad and were screened in Soviet Union in the mid 60s. And back then, this film in Soviet Union, it was perceived as sort of kind of a thriller. So kids weren't allowed to see it. So people actually perceived this film that is, well, stylistically is a comedy, that is a charge and a parody to this James Bond kind of films. Here, it was perceived completely different. And nowadays, every viewer, well, like average viewer, just from seeing 1 second of image, he already kind of gets what is being shown to him. As Anna was in Cannes last year, there was another great film there, Parasites. When I saw it, I thought, wow, that is the film, that is something new. And I'm very glad that it got such a, well, enormous success. Because it somehow portrayed the thing that I was thinking a lot about myself lately. So nowadays, our viewer already seen it thousands of times, everything that you showed him. And in this new kind of era of storytelling, the adventures of characters, they don't matter that much as the adventure of genre itself. And that is what Parasites, they very precisely portray. So you see the first kind of, well, couple of seconds, the first scene of the film, and you identify it immediately. Okay, that is kind of the social drama that is shown in a way of ironic comedy. So you kind of basically prepare yourself that it will be funny most of the time, but in the end, it will kind of hit you hard. But then as the scenes progress, it turns into absolute comedy, and then into a detective, and then into psychological thriller, and then into slasher. So you aren't, as a viewer, you always get your expectancies.
Yeah, you're thrown off a bit.
Tricked.
Yeah.
And I guess that is also something that will determine the cinematography in the future. And right now there are also quite a lot of good examples to this. Well, what comes to my mind right now is Ave Caesar, yes? So the well, really great work of Coen brothers and Charles Dickens. There are some shots in that film that if you look at them, they look exactly as the shots out of golden era of this Hollywood studio filming, but they actually are not. So that is the perfect stylization, but still it gives you this feeling of being transported to this golden age, this kind of heaven of filmmaking, and that all is mostly done just with the texture, with the color, with the lenses, and with the framing, and with the camera movement. And I guess so the future of cinematography as an art is probably situated somewhere there. You know, just knowing your viewer, knowing that now he's really smart, he's really keen on image. And that is where you can kind of get him into some play, you know, show him something that will that will arouse one emotion, but then in the end will turn out to be something else. Well, I know it's probably just something that I'm making up right now, but yeah, I just thought that if you talk about the future, then it's basically the evolution of those who will be who are we going to shoot our films for.
Well, you know, these were all really fantastic answers to Stephen's question, because you're hitting all the different points of not just technology, but aesthetic development too. So that goes into our final question that we have, which is, if you can have one widget of your choosing, you know, for your process, and it doesn't matter if that's on set or in post or whatnot, if you could have one device that helps you out a little bit better, is it a piece of lighting or is it a piece of camera gear? We just want to know what that widget is. So we'll start with Daniel, then we'll go to Dave and then Vova. But you guys have to answer, come up with your dream widget, your dream tool that you would love to see developed. And hopefully there's some manufacturers or some inventors right now paying attention, watching this video, that can help you out. So Daniel, you first.
I would say it's a funny thing. I have an iPhone 8, and which particularly helped me a lot is the director's viewfinder app, which is started to get progressed with the freelance iPhones. So that's the thing, which is I think, I know it's funny, but it's so quick and so in your pocket, and so helped a lot, because classical director's viewfinder is not that, is very difficult, and change the lens and it's very precise. And that's, if it's a good answer.
Cool. So you want a better version of the Artemis
I mean
directors.
that's a thing which helps a lot.
No, what is a new item that you would like to see? Something that's not created yet.
Okay, sorry, I misunderstand the question, sorry. Something's not created yet.
We can come back to you. We'll come back to you.
Okay, thanks.
So we'll go to Dave Miller. Dave Miller, it's not created yet. What do you want to have?
So, I mean, I love the Artemis. I love Sunseeker. They're two things that I can't do without. What I'd love to have, which maybe is out there, which I don't have, is some sort of easily used, for someone who's not very good on computers, previs kind of easy to use software. And I'm sure it's there. And I've explored some. So, you know, I use Shot Designer, which is great, but quite frustrating, quite slow. I've done stuff in, can't remember the program now, but you know, I'm a sort of person who, I'm at the age where if I don't do it every day, I forget how to do it, and it takes me a week to relearn it. And I know there are, you know, I've seen stuff out there. I know there's stuff being developed, and you know, looks like a PlayStation game, and you can pre-visit all and all that. But I just I'd love to just really easily be able to just build a room in a minute on my phone. Does it and add all the lights and everything?
A very, but I don't remember the name.
I know there's a guy, there's Cinemotion, or there's the guy who makes it look like a PlayStation, but it's still quite what's it called?
I guess it's called this Cine Designer that you
Cine
mean.
Designer,
That's a
yeah,
plugin
Cine
for
Designer.
Cinema 4D.
Yeah, exactly. And I've explored that in the time that I've had at home and stuff. But you know, I'm not a computer. It's still too up there for me still. You know, I need
so a better previs tool. That's what you're looking for.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Vova, what about you?
I'm really confused, I need to tell you, because to be honest, well, there's really a lot of tools and a lot of things and a lot of technologies that I'm always relying on. And there is so much effort and so much talent that is put into each one of them. I mean, just if you talk the camera, lenses, monitors, also the previous program. So I use all of that. The, well, I don't know, grip stuff. I just recently visited, if you don't know, the Kiev is the place where the first stabilized heads were developed by Filmotechnic. They actually make the heads for Avatar specifically. So they were the only company in the world who managed to pull it off. And I visited the new facilities recently, and now they're doing the telescopic techno cranes. It's like an 8-meter version of Technocrate made out of carbon fiber, and it weighs like 120 kilos. So it's nothing. You can place it whatever, and they have the super light stabilized heads to it. So it's really unbelievable what these guys are doing. And I mean, there is so much of technologies, and they're so cool and so reliable and so sophisticated. So I don't even know, you know, what might be better to it. If you would ask me the one tool that probably kind of stands atop of it all, well, for me, just don't laugh, I would say that's a gaffer tape. Because if there is something, one single thing that saved me most of the times in my life, that you can do basically everything with, and that, well, that would be the gaffer tape. So I don't know if any guys who are producing gaffer tape just can hear me, please. What I need is a gaffer tape that wouldn't be freezing in the cold here in the winter.
There you go. Weather resistant gaffer tape. Wow, that would revolutionize filmmaking in cold weather. That's wonderful. That's a great suggestion. Daniel, we're coming back to you. What's your suggestion?
So like I think, which is a big advance and very time presuming thing, is the appearance of LED lights, and nowadays only the smaller parts of LED, smaller size of LEDs can be lit by batteries, and which really saves a lot of time, and which can really help your creative workflow, or your time presuming, advance your time presuming, would be if the bigger ones could work with batteries. And it's going to happen, I guess, in a few years, but that's a thing I could say for that.
So we want bigger LED heads with battery power, so that we can
because that for a lot of situations, that makes you really you know, easy to find places to put and stuff.
Great. Well, look, these are all wonderful suggestions. I think you guys did a great job today of outlining some tools that you really like, and then some things that you want to see for the future of cinematography. We talked about formats. We talked about, you know, going back and forth in terms of vintage look, but with modern equipment. This was really a wonderful conversation. Thank you so much for joining us during the Paris International Film Festival and coming in. And we will encourage everyone to watch the films of these cinematographers, because they're wonderful. They really are heartfelt. So you have Cream from Daniel. Dave, you have, I'm sorry.
The Cunning Man.
The Cunning Man. I want to make sure I said it right. The Cunning Man, and then Anna from Vova. Okay. And Daniel's is a feature film, and Dave's and Vova's are short films. You can watch them all online as part of the festival. Jenna, would you like to add anything?
Yes, thank you so much, everyone, for taking part. It was so fascinating. And yes, there's something I would like to add. First, Daniel, Dave, Vova, congratulations on your films. They're so incredible. And I want to also, and your work as a cinematographer, also want to highlight that the directors and even pretty much the whole team of Cream also did a Q&A for the festival. So it's part of the same Eiffel Tower virtual building. Daniel was also on the Q&A with Cream, and there was also the production designer. And I so appreciated hearing you guys ask and talk about the work with your team. And to kind of jump on that, and also on what you said, Vova, about the future of cinematography and how our audiences are also viewing our work and your work, I think it's really fascinating to see it in the technology. This is why Zeiss has the technology, and also in the narration. For instance, we know that some of our viewers, they get more used to, for instance, an actor facing the camera. And at the festival, we also have some films which are really part of this revolution, like, for instance, Influenceuse with Lorraine Atelier, who is actually a revelation, nominated for a revelation at the César, which is the equivalent in France of the Oscar. And it's all shot in the story format. So it's like, it's literally shot in this style. And I think it's definitely shaping, not only in the technology, obviously, but also in the narration, the way cinematographers work, because then there's so much you must kind of think of and adapt, and also the way you work with your team, because as we understand, you guys do a fantastic job also coordinating with the color grader, obviously the director, the production designer, and all of this can maybe also be improved with the remote technology that we most have. So thank you so much, Snehal, Katia, Steven, for your excellent questions and just highlighting on this cinematographer's work, because it's just, honestly, the cinematography of all the selection is so impressive. And you guys, thanks so much for sharing your experience and your knowledge, because it's fascinating.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
It's very enjoyable.
Merci.
Great. Well, take care, everybody. You have a great rest of the weekend. Enjoy and be safe out there. You know, we still have a pandemic, so be careful. Yes. And we'll all see each other together very soon, I hope.
Hope so.
Yes.
Hope so.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone.
Nice to meet you guys.
Bye.
Nice to meet everyone.
Bye-bye. Enjoy the festival.
Bye-bye.